This episode is brought to you by Absolute Landscapes. Absolute Landscapes is a landscape maintenance company that focuses heavily on commercial property maintenance. Call today for information about the services we provide and how we can best help you. 803-427-5944.
I'm excited about this conversation, get into this kind of stuff, because it's not often that I have these conversations about some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today. And so it's interesting to me. I don't know what you can see off to the side over here as far as uploaded percent
That's
uploaded.
99%.
Yeah. So that's pretty good. We both should have good internet.
Yep.
So
And my video is a little blurry, but it says that it's going to get better.
Yeah, it might look blurry, and even too, like if it seems like it's blurry, or if if my video or your video skips out, it won't be like that in the final thing, because like I said, it records locally and then it uploads. So as long as it says 99 and we can still hear each other, then we should be good. Even if it's like in the upper, I think yours is catching up right now, but I'll keep an eye on that and make sure that's good to go.
Okay.
But yeah, if you wanna maybe just kind of introduce yourself and give a little rundown and kind of preface the conversation, we'll go from there.
Sure. Awesome. Well, first of all, it's awesome to be here. And I'm Kamilla. I am a life energy and leadership coach. So I've been doing that for over a year now. And that really came from about 5 years of deep self-discovery, which kind of involved the traditional therapy methods, as well as less traditional ones. And for me, it kind of, as I went through that and as I've been learning more and more about myself, about my path, about my passion, kind of unblocking myself, I guess, from all the socially imposed norms and what I should be like and what I should be doing, that kind of brought me to the journey of being a coach. I have over 12 years of corporate world experience where I've been mentoring for a big part of it. So really working with people, problem solving, really, that's been my passion all the way through. It's just to bring that and align it with kind of helping people to find their purpose outside of just career, but really knowing that your career really stems from what you're feeling inside and not kind of locked in, if you will, in the box of the organization that you are in at the moment. I think that kind of what brought me to coaching. Since then, I had my coaching certification. I went through a rigorous program. Have over 150 at this point hours of coaching experience, one-on-one coaching, group coaching, and I speak on stages. And yeah, that's really it. I got accreditation 3 days before I had my baby. I had my baby. My baby is 6 months old now. And here we are.
Congratulations.
So, thank you.
Yeah.
I know you just had a baby too, right?
Oh, I did. I don't have children. No.
Oh, you don't have children?
No.
Where are you from? Oh, I apologize.
That's okay.
Right, that's awkward.
Okay. No, that's all right. But no, congratulations there.
Thank you.
So you don't have to get into this, but this is just what I'm picking up. It sounds like when talking about this personal growth thing for a second, it sounds like you went through some sort of experience or some sort of realization. And from there, it sounded like all these maybe positive things stemmed out. Is that right? And like I said, you don't have to get into what the experience was itself, but and the reason I'm asking is because that seems to be a repeated theme of people that I talk to. Is something happens, something traumatic, something this not desirable at all, but then in the end, they come out better because of that, and in whatever way that is. And so I was just curious to see if that's what you were kind of alluding to there.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think that there is this, and I've been actually, I don't want to say struggling, but I've been like really thinking about it, because a lot of people have this like catalyst in their life, right? Like there's something really, really bad, dramatic happen. Usually it's with their health or something else, and they change their life around, right? They go through this experience. I actually didn't have that experience, to be frank. My experience was fairly more normal paced, if you will. The catalyst for me was COVID. So because I have been living my life very much in, and when we go to energies, it will all make sense, but in very much kind of goal setting, goal reaching type of life, right? Like I'm like overachiever, always, like set the goal, get it done. Like there's nobody's business. So that's really been my life. And I thought I had a pretty amazing life. Like I lived in New York City. I like loved it. So, I mean, I still love it. Don't live there anymore. But there's so many things that have happened to me which were amazing. And it was always this nagging feeling that something is missing. And I never had time for it. And I think that's I think I want to bring a different kind of lens almost to people. You don't have to go to traumatic experience to start listening to yourself. Yes, that usually helps. But COVID was that experience for me, because when everything just shut down and New York City and everything that used to occupy my energy kind of was taken away, right? And because if anybody knows New York City, they know how busy it can get and how wonderful it can get and how many things are there to, to chase and to run and to live and experience and all that stuff, right? So like every time you get that voice, you're like, shut it down with a couple of glasses of wine with a friend and go to a gallery, like there's stuff to do. So when all of that was done and gone, that is when the silence was daunting, right? And that's when I was like, okay, so what am I gonna, and I actually, before I got onto my self-discovery journey, I was like, let me figure out what I can do professionally. So I completed some other certification. Again, like I just can't stay still. So I completed my professional certification, and then that was like nothing made sense. So, and that's when I came across hypnotherapy, and everything started making sense. It's just like from the first word I heard about subconscious mind and how we think and how we think and what's actually happening in our programming, it was just life changing. I was like, yeah, that's me. Yeah, it was like this thing. It was like, give me more, and I could never look back. So, and I was like, again, it's been quite a journey. It was not an easy ride, right? It was like, what am I doing? Like, where's it going? So there was a lot of before it became clear, but that's really kind of where my journey, like how my journey transpired.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't think we give enough thought, man, to the unconscious mind. I think that a lot of us are just, for lack of a better word, we're just kind of on autopilot almost. We're just kind of going through the motions and we're trying to get to the next thing. But it's like, hearing you talk, I don't even know if I understand the subconscious mind the way I think that I do. But it's like, I don't think we think about that enough. Like, if we see things, if we hear things, or even if we do things that are around us, I don't think we understand how these things influence us that we're not even aware of. I mean, whether it's something in TV or music or a billboard, first of all, I don't know the number. I read the number one time and I can't remember what it was, but there's a number that's spent in advertising, billions of dollars. And it's like, it influences us. Like, this is a science that's broken down the way how advertising influences us and the way this money is spent. And it's like, even that, man, like, we don't understand how these things, like how they influence our conscious mind, basically. And so we have all these different things, and then we're talking about energy levels. I really want to get into this because I'm so curious to hear about this, because I think I want to be true here. I think this is the first time I'm hearing about, I've heard chakras and things like that, but I think about the energy levels. This is the first time I'm hearing about this. And so I might be kind of jumping around here, but I'm thinking like, so about all this different stuff. So when I hear energy levels, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is like emotions. Like I try to label an emotion to that. Like, and I don't think that's the way that I need to think about that, because when we say like shift, I was just gonna say, when we say shift energy levels, I'm thinking like, okay, we're going from like sadness to happiness, or we're going from like anger to, peace, or I don't think that's the right way to think about that, though. Just hearing what you're saying.
Right. So I'll tell you, like, there's no right or wrong way, right? So like when we talk about energy, like we remove the whole thing about black and white, right or wrong. Like there's like, everything is gray.
Okay.
So, right.
I'm sorry, not to interrupt you, but is that because it's subjective to the person? Because like this is different for every person? Is that why that's the case?
Because we all hold all energies within us because we are energy. So like if you think about it, like you are energy.
Mhm.
Your mind
Right.
is energy. The
Yep.
voice that we're transmitting here is energy, right? And how we channel that voice and how it actually gets into people's ears is energy. So it's all energy.
Mhm.
So, and I'm not going to go into that type of energy, right? But if we start thinking about energy in the what's right and what's wrong, we'll never get an answer because we all have all energies within us. And why energy levels that I'm going to talk about are similar to what chakras are. And I think that they are like, at the end of the day, if we talk about growth and if we talk about self-improvement industry, and if we talk about deep subconscious mind reprogramming, it all stems from the same, right? It's awareness, authenticity, presence, action. So if we start, again, emotions, all of that kind of fit in that, because if you're aware, you kind of know what you feel. So it's all the same thing. So we can talk about chakras, we can talk about energy levels. There are many other disciplines that in line with that. But at the end of the day, there's a baseline. To your point, we're not aware what's actually happening with us as we do things a lot of times. We're programmed to do them because our subconscious mind is what's driving our lives. And that subconscious mind is being filled with voices and with things that we should and should not be doing and should not be thinking since the day we were born, right? And it's not from like some malicious reasons, right? It's just our parents have their lives, have their experiences.
Yep.
They look at you and they're like, oh my God, look at this little beautiful boy, a little beautiful girl. And they start saying, you are so this. And you say for a girl, you're so beautiful, you're this, you're that. For a boy, they might say some different things, right? And that is what's being built in us. And then we see a teacher who doesn't like us. And the teacher says something really nasty. And that nasty thing actually spikes or a friend, whatever, right? But that spikes our emotion. And every time we get a spike in the emotion, it leaves mark in our subconscious. You might not even remember that. It might be so insignificant for you, for your conscious mind, for your day, that you're just past that. You're like, whatever, you shook it off. But because you actually had a spike in your emotional level, it left a mark. And then years and years and years later, when a similar situation happened, or the same value was challenged, or you had to go on that stage, whatever that is, right? Like that is when that one word that somebody told you years and years and years back will come up to you and say, are you sure you want to do it? Remember you failed one time, or whatever that is. So, and that is how subconscious mind works, right? It's really our operating system. It's our, like, everything, all the programming is there. And what we choose to do on a day-to-day basis, we think we have choices, but unless we actually understand what's in that box, if we keep it as a black box type of thing, then that is what's running our day-to-day life. So I know I kind of moved away from energy, but I kind of wanted to get back into what subconscious mind is and how and why it's so important for us to know and align, and why there's really no good or bad, because good or bad, it is the definition of good and bad is social imposed definition. Like all of that is pure judgment. What is good?
Yep.
Right? So
Yeah.
right or wrong, same thing. Right or wrong 200 years ago was very different than, and 1,000 years ago was definitely very different than now. Right?
Yep.
So it's all we are being told what is right, and we're being told what is wrong. And at the end of the day, yes, there are baseline rules that are needed and everything else. I'm not going to argue with the laws and everything else, but there are things that are core to you. And if you are able to actually look into your subconscious mind, understand what's core with your core values, clean up your core values from everybody else's values around you, and actually know, okay, what's important for me? That is when you start looking at energy levels and you can choose which emotion you want to experience. So it's not about right or wrong. It's about what is your choice in the moment.
So that's a really good way to say that. And I think before we move forward, we should maybe clarify, because some people they may think they know what subconscious mind is. So like how would you define the subconscious mind? Like, what would you say the subconscious mind is? Because I think when people hear this, it's like it's not talked about nearly enough that we don't. First of all, I can't believe this kind of thing, like the subconscious mind. I can't believe that we go through our education system, 12 years minimum or whatever it is, and these kind of things are never brought up. I guess for the same reason religion isn't brought up most of the time in public schools. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, you would imagine that we would hear this kind of things at some point from somewhere. So what would you say? How would you define like what the subconscious mind is? Like when we talk about the subconscious mind, I know it's like we can't perform surgery on somebody and see the subconscious mind, but like what I mean, I guess like what is it? Like what is it like? Because I don't think it's the same thing as like a spirit or a soul. I don't think it's the same thing as like the collective mind, the collective subconscious that maybe we all contribute to. Like, if there's 8 billion people on the earth and we all do the same thing, that is kind of a collective mindset, like we all contribute to that collective wholeness, basically. So I don't know. So it just like in a simple version, how can we say this, what the subconscious mind is?
So
if we can even answer that question, I don't know.
Oh, I'm sure there's the ways to answer it more scientifically. So I'm just going to talk about it like more simple language, right? And again, think about operating system, right? Everything that everything that you've ever been told, everything you've seen, everything that you've experienced, it gets deposited in your subconscious mind. Subconscious mind is it's a depository, if you will, right, of all your life's experiences and emotions.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about it is that because we are not bringing it forward, because we're not aware of those emotions and reactions that we've experienced, it really drives it's if you think about it, think about the puppet show.
Mm-hmm.
And we are at times, or many times if we're not aware, are puppets of our subconscious mind. Subconscious mind is our puppeteer, right? It just says basically, hey, like, you see the situation happen, you see this guy who cut you off, the reaction has to be that you just curse him out and you're pissed off right now and it's going to ruin your day. Like, that is your subconscious mind. Just because that's how you've seen maybe your fatherly figure like doing that all his life, or you just think that it's normal, or you just had a crappy day and you feel like, okay, like, because I had a crappy day, I have a right to do, like, so it doesn't matter why, right? But it's like it's those things that you do, you don't even know why you do it. If you really ask yourself, okay, fine, that person cut you off, like, now you messed up, like they went on with their life, like they might have been like pissed off that you probably honk on them, like there's nothing really happened to their life, right? Like they just moved on. You totally ruined your day by being pissed, by now probably ruminating on that, maybe calling a friend or a spouse and like telling them how big of an ass like was cutting off, like all of that stuff. Just imagine how much negativity you bring into your life just because you couldn't let go of one event that was like so insignificant.
Right.
What if you were aware and actually questioned it? Okay, fine, that really sucked, but how do I actually, like, what can I actually do about it? Like, and if the answer is you can't really do much unless you want to chase the person, let them stop and talk to them about it, like that is at least an action that you will release the, like whatever is, whatever emotions that come up for you, right? Like that you will release them in action rather than like blocking them within you and just becoming more and more angry, right? So if that conversation would actually make sense, and if it would result in some better conclusion, if you will, for lack of a better word, fine, just go do it. But don't just like sit and ruminate and ruminate and ruminate on it, because at the end of the day, it's not going to help. So subconscious mind, going back to that, right? That is what tells you to begin with that the only way to deal with this is to get pissed, to like start ruminating on that, to call your friend, and now to have all your day like started on that emotion. Because your subconscious mind tells you that this was unfair, this was done to you, you should like, and whatever the emotion, whatever, everybody has different triggers. But the trigger, the way they get triggered, we don't think about them, right? Instead of asking, why did it trigger me to this extent? And traffic is just one example that came to mind. But like, why actually did I get as pissed as I got? Like, is that what's happening within me? Did I have a really bad day? Did I maybe sleep like 2 hours instead of 10 or instead of 8, whatever you need, right? So like, what is actually happening? Instead of thinking like that, we put all responsibility onto that person who cut us off, whether they did it on purpose or accidentally. And we becoming a victim of the situation around us. And we suffer inside.
Yep.
That's what subconscious mind does.
That's a really good way to put that. Triggered is like a perfect word for that, because somebody can do something to us and I don't think people, we don't think about this enough, that our reaction is like our fault. I mean, like the way, like you said, this person goes on about their day, and more than likely they might not even know that they pissed you off the way they did. But if they do, I mean, it's not going to bother them as nearly as much as it bothers you probably. And you're carrying this around, and that triggered is a good word for that. So when I hear this, like what I kind of hear is, we see things like with the limited mindset that we have, and I think we're way smarter than people think about sometimes. But like just the limited brain power we have, we see things in like low resolution, because we have to reserve brain power to understand the world. And like if I'm looking at this computer, I don't have the software, pun intended, to like analyze this computer and see like what it's made of chemically. I mean, that's irrelevant. Like we don't need that to operate in the world. And so like what I'm hearing when you say this is the subconscious mind is basically a huge storage bin of like everything that we've seen or experienced in our life, everything that maybe we thought we had forgotten about it, but it's there, and they say that intimate relationships are a really good mirror for yourself. If you have something wrong with you, or if you have some area you need to work on, intimate relationships bring it out. And maybe that's the subconscious mind, it's bringing things out of that subconscious mind. So yeah, that's
not only intimate relationship, it's really everyone and everything around you is your mirror.
Yeah.
So the reason why you are in situations that you are, the reason why you're in the job that you are, the reason why you are in the mood with you, like everything, right? Even health. And people talk about, there's a whole thing about genetics versus the mindfulness, right? And how genetics is really just a gun that just, that stands in a corner. But the shooting of the gun, like, is actually our lifestyle. So that's our choices, basically. And that's, there's so many things. So everything in your life is your mirror. Like, that's kind of is an interesting thing to think about it.
For sure. Okay, so about this energy thing. Okay, so we got a general definition of like what the subconscious mind is. So the energy levels, are there, like when you talk about 7, do these have a name? Like how do we identify what these levels are? I mean, it's just like a 1, 2, 3, 4 type thing, or like
exactly 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So like chakras have very fancy names. This is just like very simple.
Okay. Okay.
It's like 1 to 7.
Okay. So is this like, but does it work like the same as chakras? Whereas you go, like, I'm assuming level 1 and level 7 is like a significant difference, so I guess kind of what I'm asking is like, what would be, if there's a way to define it, like what would be a way to define and maybe identify like each of the 7? Maybe if we can just like go through briefly what they are. I'm assuming just kind of like the way this conversation is going, I'm assuming most of us at all times are somewhere between 1 and 3, is I would imagine.
That would be the right assumption.
Well, because I mean, like, okay, maybe like one is when you're. I don't know. I don't want to assume because I don't want to like. I don't know anything about this, so maybe if you can just like say what they are, and then we'll go from there.
Sure.
Because
Yep. So this is a concept developed by Bruce Schneider, and he's actually a founder of school also where I received my certification for coaching. And like the way I love talking about levels of energy is I think that visual, it makes much more sense than anything else. So just think about a funnel, right? So, and think about somebody throwing a letter into a funnel. And funnel has 7 steps. So just as I'm showing you a funnel, think about how much light, visibility, and air do you get right at the bottom of the funnel versus the top. So every step that you go up, you get more light, you get more visibility, and you get more air. Right? So as I'm talking about levels of energy, just think about the funnel because that just helps visualize what I'm talking about.
Right.
So level 1 is basically the person that I described in the car is level 1, right? Is level 1 is when very bottom of the funnel, right? So no space, no air, no choices. Everyone, like everybody's at fault, right? So everything is impacting me. I have no choices. The politics, the country is run by idiots. Hope that's not going to be taken out of context. But anyway, so it's just like that would be your thing, but no. Like my parents did not do a good job with raising me, and that's why I'm screwed up. My school and I didn't have money. The education is too expensive. The healthcare is too expensive. Like if only this has changed, then maybe, or then my life would be different. But because all of that really sucks, I'm miserable. So this is your perfect level 1. Can't do anything because the world is not going to change for me. So I'm totally like motionless, and I'm at the place of like that everything is impacting me. So this is your perfect victim scenario. Right? And so many people live in that mentality, right? I don't get promoted because my boss is at fault. I don't get this because, so there's always this reasoning. It's never retrospective. It's never like looking inside and saying, hey, what's going on? It's always looking outside. So no air, no choice, no movement. And you can't get out of it unless you have an awareness. So remember how you said about like everything is blurry? So this is the perfect way of having the potential, but not seeing any potential because that is so blurred. Like you have levels and levels and levels of just assumptions and limiting beliefs and everything else that's like was fed into you and like so stuck in your subconscious mind. And because you don't have awareness that you can actually change any of that, you just live by that. You're like purely driven by all the garbage, right? So, and driven is a strong word because you're actually not driven to anything. You like basically just exist, being like being at impact of everything else. So level 2, you just think about it like, right, you have just a little bit more air, a little bit more visibility. So that's just enough to see how crowded the world is, right? You're like, darn, there is space, there is room. Like, what am I doing, right? So you're like, I got to get that piece of pie. If I don't get that piece of pie, it's going to get smaller for me. So the world is the pie. There is no free lunch. I'm going to fight my way through. And you go and you fight your way through. So most of the actually goals in life are reached on level 2 because level 2 is the perfect kind of go-getter type of mentality. And that's the mentality that I lived in for a really long part of my life. So it's where you see the goal, you don't see anything else. The thing about it is that while it can help you achieve the short-term goal, it really is not sustainable, because the burnout is on the other side of that mentality. The exhaustion is on the other side of that mentality. The not seeing truly options is on the other side of this mentality, because you have such a tunnel vision, right? Like you have that goal, you don't see what's happening. You don't even see, a lot of times we don't even know why we have the goal, because the goal is driven by our subconscious, right? The goal is because our parents told us that being successful means ABC. You're like, I gotta do the ABC because I'm a good girl, I'm a good boy. So all of that stuff is what's in our subconscious. So we set the A goal, create a vision, create a plan, smart plan, all of that stuff, right? Like we check all boxes and we go and we get it. We get there, we're like, okay, it doesn't feel like anything. So maybe you celebrate, have a beer, whatever, and then we go next, right? So, but it's like we never actually stop and understand what is happening within us. And it's burnout, and all that, all the reason why, the anger, a lot of all those emotions that are very negative. So level 2 is like serves you amazingly if you need to run away from like a lion. If you're chased by a lion, don't need options, just see a path and get yourself out there, right? But anything else is really not sustainable. So short term, not really the best idea. Level 3 is this, the interesting one, because it's kind of getting yourself out of that. It's called catabolic, like lower levels of energy into higher levels of energy, right? So that's when we think about it. Okay. And that is where a lot of justification sits. So that's when you say, okay, so I got this job. Does it fulfill me? But so many people don't have jobs, right? So many people have are unemployed. So I have to be grateful. And that is when you shame people for not being grateful for what they have, right? So we shame ourselves. I gotta be grateful because I have that. I gotta feel different because I have that. And we justify our thoughts, our true, authentic selves away. So we pretty much say that it's all fine. This should lives in level 3. The at least I got this lives in level 3. All this sort of justification lives in level 3. And level 3, and I like how you said like most people live between 1 and 3, because that's actually true, because level 3 from surface is like amazing level to be in. Because if I look at your life and you live in level 3, it's going to look pretty darn good. But how is it going to feel to you? If you know that everything you do is, you might look happy, you might even feel happy at times, but that happiness is actually self-imposed happiness to cover up for what's truly bothering you, for the true lag that you're experiencing.
Yep.
And then from there, we go up to level 4, where you can see like there's a ton of light, there is a lot of energy there already, right? Or a lot of space. And that's when we say, okay, like I've actually, and I think that one thing that's worth mentioning in level 3 is that the only way to get out of level 3 is through brutal honesty. Because level 3, it's like you against you. So there is really no other way to think about it, right? It's like if you tell yourself, hey, you know what, I kind of don't like this job, or I'm just unhappy. And then you come in and you say, what are you talking about, dude? Like, you have to be happy. Like, look at your life, look at the house, look at what you have. You gotta be happy. Shame on you to feel that way. And you're like, okay, that's it. And you continue on that journey until you can't anymore. So the thing to get out of there is really to say, hey, like, forget about all the justification. Just mute that voice for a second. What am I actually truly feeling? And taking that, taking that forward. So that is to get out of there is a lot of work, like through like very honest, very deep work. Because that's a level you can get stuck, live like no other business.
Right.
So level 4 is when, again, we see the opportunities and we're like, okay, so I have opportunities. Why don't I help others all those people that I saw in level 3 that don't have opportunities, right? So now you already have enough that you feel like, okay, you feel that generosity, you feel love, you feel all those things, that passion within you. So and it's beautiful level if we talk about just like, judgmentally purely about the level. The only thing about level 4, the catch, if you will, is that if you only focus outward again, but this time not from level 1 where you focus on outward that everything comes at you, you're focusing outward that you want to give, then at some point your own like box of giving is emptying out. And the
Right.
moment it empties out and you don't have anything to give out of anymore, you get resentment and you get resentful and you get like all those feelings like, I've done so much for you and you haven't even paid attention to me. So we're not doing it. It's like, it's a true act of kindness. And there's this conditional expectation almost on the other end of it, that it is that we need something for ourselves, basically.
Right.
So, and the only way to really sustain that level is by saying, okay, if I have those feelings like kindness, generosity, empathy, all the beautiful emotions that this world needs so much more of, how do I apply them to me as well?
Mm-hmm.
And only through actually filling our own reservoir of those emotions, we can continue giving. But a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people just kind of live through, through emotion, right? So again, and a lot of times it's like, well, I'm a mom, so I gotta do this, or I'm a son, I gotta, like again, this is a socially imposed norm, what we should or should not do, and we start doing them, and that's when the kindness, the true gesture of love, blurs with the shoulds and then that's when the resentment comes in. So again, there's intentionality is beautiful, and there is another side to it. Level 5 is a true win-win state when we're just feeling the world is our oyster, and if you can win, I can win, and it's just a place where we want to collaborate, work together, and there's this true sense of that I cannot win if you cannot win. So there is this feeling of like needing to pull each other up, right? So that is where like the higher levels of energy really, really live. And that's a level where you see a lot of opportunities, you see a lot of options. So that's where successful business lives, like all those things, because you actually think, okay, it's not about you, it's not about me. Let's co-create. So that is where level 5 is. Level 6 is the level of visionaries, right? So I'm talking about Elon Musk, I'm talking about Einstein, I'm talking about Steve Jobs. So people who had an idea, honored their idea, and by just implementing on their idea, enriched the world. So they didn't necessarily, they might have thought like, okay, I want to make the world a better place. But it was more really going from their authentic, ambitious idea, which might have seemed completely insane as they were developing it, right? So people were like, you're crazy or whatever. So, but they actually followed through it for themselves, with themselves. And by that, they enriched the world. So it's like, it's really, there's almost no separation anymore. It's like my actions of love. If I love myself, if I do things with myself because I'm a part of this universe, I will make this universe a better place. So, and then level 7 is a level of, let's say Buddha. So nobody can live in level 7, but we can tap into level 7 at meditation time or something else. So that's when we actually know that we are the creator. We are the universe. We are like, we truly, there's nothing that we cannot do in this life. And that is the awesome level to actually like roll down the red carpet, down the funnel. But because with the consciousness of level 7, you can go into every one of these levels and experience it to its fullest potential. Because each one of these levels, including level 1, has a significant amount of value if experienced with consciousness.
All right. So,
hope I didn't put people to sleep.
No, I was actually listening intensely to this, man. So if you see me kind of like off to the side over here, I wrote some notes down
Awesome.
about something because I didn't want to interrupt you, but then I also didn't want to lose the train of thought that I had, because I do that sometimes especially when I'm paying attention, like I'm just trying to focus on what you're saying. All right, before we get into this, let's take a quick break real quick. I want to make sure the video is good. Let's take a quick break really quickly, and we'll be right back. I'm going to stop the video. Okay, so we were talking about the 7 levels, and one thing that really stood out to me almost immediately when you started talking was about the first level, about this victim mentality. And I mean, that makes so much sense for that to be like the lowest level. If you have like a victim mentality, like the thing that bothers me about this is that kind of mentality perpetuates itself. And so like, as you're talking, you use the analogy of a funnel, which I really like. But then like, as you're talking, I'm thinking about not just a funnel, but like a funnel, like an hourglass funnel. So like the sand that just kind of gets like sucked to the bottom. Like you just like, think about if you're in this mindset, if you have a victim mindset, like you're basically just getting, buried by all these, what you feel like are problems. And it's really just a mindset that's making these problems real. Like these things are not even a real thing. It's just that you think everything that's wrong with you is somebody or something's fault, and it just perpetuates itself, man, because I've talked about this before too. People, when we have that mindset, that influences everything that we do. I mean, every interaction that we have with people, you can go somewhere and I don't know, something simple. You can go to a coffee shop and somebody has a bad day and they make a comment or they're rude to you or whatever. And then you internalize that. Oh, well, I must be a bad person because this person said this or did this to me. And so it's just like, you just get buried. That was the first thing that stood out. And I don't know, maybe I'm thinking about this the wrong way, but this is the first thing that stood out to me when you started talking about level 1. I was like, man, that makes a lot of sense, man. And then the question is, well, like, how do we get at that? But I guess we'll get to that later.
And if I can just say, right, like the reason why you would say that, okay, maybe that's because I'm a bad person, is because in the subconscious mind, you already have that preconditioning that like you already believe that you might not be a good person, right? So that something somewhere in your life has happened that every time there's an interaction, it triggers that self-doubt in you and it brings it forward. So it didn't come. So if I tell you something that's completely untrue for you, like completely ridiculous for you, right? Mm-hmm. Or that you don't care about, like it would not bring any emotion. It wouldn't, you wouldn't even think about twice. You would probably think that I'm ridiculous and you'd move on with your day. So, but anytime that I say something that is actually true for you, that is when you react.
Okay, wait a minute. Time out. That's a really good point. Okay, that's a really good point, and I never thought about that before. Okay, so let me just make sure I got this right. Somebody can say something or do something. If it doesn't affect you emotionally, you put zero thought to it. But as soon as it does affect you emotionally, that's when you internalize it and think that whatever they're saying or however you're reacting is true, or that's who you really are, or whatever. Basically, you're trying to, it's almost like you're trying to justify your reaction because for some reason, whatever reason, there's an emotion attached to it.
Absolutely. So it's like, and I like giving like the most ridiculous examples. Like, for example, you have light eyes and I'll tell you like, Cody, you have dark eyes. Like, I mean, it's just a really stupid example, but anyway, but would you even think twice about it? You probably would think that I might colorblind, and you'd probably move on with your day. Like, I mean, it's just like
unless Unless I was self-conscious about my dark eyes, then
Exactly.
yeah,
Unless somebody before made fun or something else
right.
about your eyes, about the color of your eyes, right? One
Yep.
way or another. Because then if they made fun of your light eyes, you would be like thinking, oh, maybe they did go dark. Maybe she sees them, like, you know, like you're start being like happy almost about my comment, right? Like, but you will attach a lot of thought about it. Or if the other way around. So exactly to your point, if somebody
Mhm.
tells you something that's not relevant to you, you can't wear it in any way, shape, or form, it's just gonna wash off you. Not a big deal. But anytime you can relate to it in any way, shape, or form, that is when you really get triggered. So being triggered is not that somebody is triggering you. It is
Mhm.
you are being triggered because of the programming that you're already carrying around with you. So the other
That
person
is
just lit it up.
that's such a good point, man. That is such a good point. Um, yeah, I really like the way that's worded. Uh okay, I'm gonna go off on a tangent if I let me get back to these notes just for a second. Okay, so it something else that stuck out to me too as you were talking about this. It's like some of these, I feel like some of these levels. Well, let me ask this first because I don't really know what levels, like what we're talking about when we say level. Is this like a state? Like, so in other words, is it possible to be like level 1 today and then, like, you know, a couple hours later be like a level 3? Or is this something that we like it? Is this something that we graduate to in like, so this is like periods of life? Like, is it, because again, it's really hard for me to look at this and not see it as like an emotional state, or like, you know, like if I feel like I'm a level 1 right now, if I'm just having a really bad day, but tomorrow I might be a level 3. But hearing you describe it, it doesn't really sound like it works that way. I
So
mean, yes, maybe
thank you
we
for
can
this question.
transcend. Yeah, maybe we can transcend, but I don't think it's just like it's not like mood. You know what I mean? It's not like emotions or anything.
So thank you. Like, this is actually an excellent question. So we all experience, and the reason, like, remember how I said it in the beginning, we all are energy. So we all
Hmm.
experience all levels of energy at all time. Like it's all in us. So the
Right.
victim energy is in you, the everything is in you. Because again, like they all serve. The victim energy actually serves, and I'd love to give you an example because I think that's the one that's least understood. And I'll answer your question in a second. So like when people lose something or someone very important in their lives, right? Whether that's a job, whether it's a loved one, whatever it is, a pet. A lot of times what we do, especially people who are like, you know, I'm a strong person, right? Like we man up, for the lack of a better word, right? And we just like figure out how to refocus our attention and to fill all that pain with something different, and we go through it. And what it does, it creates this huge block of pain within you because you never lived through it. You never allowed yourself to feel that to the core. So what
Hmm.
level 1 allows you, if used consciously, is to actually climb into, like, under that, whatever you need to do to actually fully experience that pain.
Hmm.
So pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional.
Right.
So you can, like, it is a beautiful way to actually experience and not go anywhere, not try to progress, not try to push yourself out of it. Just truly stay with it, truly let it, like, go through your body, like surrender. And then it will it will you will know, again, if you are on high conscious levels operating in general, and I'll talk about, again, that would take me to your question. You will know when to move on. But each of these levels is within you, and each of these levels is very, very important.
Hmm.
So I just want to kind of give it up, right? Like give it justice, like that. Level 1 is not worse than level 7. Absolutely not. So level 1 serves its purpose if used consciously. So now answering your question, because we all have those levels, the more consciousness we have, the more awareness we have, then we make choice which level to operate on average. So there's actually an assessment that I do with all my clients that shows their average level of energy on like how they show up on a day-to-day basis. So your average level does not really fluctuate. I mean, it fluctuates as you grow, as you learn. So your level a year ago will probably be different if you've done a lot of personal growth work. But your average level, you know, how you show up usually is there, right?
Right.
But then if you have a bad day with that average level, the way you look at that bad day is going to be very different than if your average level is lower. So if your average level is at 2 and you have a bad day, you probably want to fight. If your average level is 5 and you had a bad day, you might have a hinge to kind of fight, but then you'll figure out, okay, like how do I make it win-win? Because that situation sucks. So how do I actually make it win-win now? So it's like very different way. Like it's like a different lens. If that makes sense. So no bad energy. All is needed. All within us. And our level of consciousness dictates which level we operate on on average.
Okay. And so this is just an assumption here. I could be wrong, but like, again, going back to the analogy of like the hourglass with just a sand or like quicksand or whatever, just a sand piling on top. If you're stuck in level 1, man, you can't even see that other levels exist. I mean, unfortunately, if you're there, so whatever the highest level that you've ever been in, that is the limit that you can see. So if you've been 2, you're only aware of 1 and 2. If you've been 5, you're aware of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so, like, I guess that's the important thing, because if you're stuck in 1 and you think that that's what your life is and that's all there is, or if you're in 2 and you think, well, you're doing a little bit better, but again, it feels like it's like 2 perpetuates itself too, because what it sounds like in level 2, like we're. And I wanted to ask you about this earlier, but it sounds like 2 is like a person they're still not there because they feel like they need external things to satisfy them internally, you know. And I think I think the rat race is a perfect example of that. You know, people and even in level 3 too, because it's like, oh well, I have all this quote unquote success, but like I'm still not happy. So how do I get happy? Oh well, I'm just going to go get more success. And that's what I was saying. At least maybe not, I don't know, maybe 4, but certainly not 5 through 7, but like 1 through 3 definitely perpetuate themselves, you know, because it's like you're in this cycle. I guess the best part about 2 and then 3 would be that, you know, that at least the other 2 or other 1, those states exist, you know, so at least, you know, to be aware of that. But man, if you're just walking around at level 1, it's like you don't even know, you know, like you have no idea that these other things are even possible. I mean, you might see people, I don't know, first of all, seeing people that seem happy is a whole separate thing, because like, you know, we have a good way of like making the world feel like we're happier than we actually are, you know. So I don't even know if you can go by that, but no, if you're in that very bottom level, like that's just. So I guess, okay, so this just leads us up to this question, like how do we, and I don't even know if this is this is probably not a simple answer, but how do we like just transcend these levels? Like how do we get from, you know, 1 to 2 and then 2 to 3, and also 2, it doesn't sound like this is something we can stay at consistently, or maybe we don't even want to stay there consistently, because like you said, sometimes we might need that 1, you know, sometimes we might need to go inside of ourselves and feel that, whatever the situation is or circumstance or whatever. So I guess maybe the question would be like, how do we transcend? And not to answer the question for you, but I think you've already alluded to it, which might be awareness or something something related to that.
So it's awareness for level 1. Level 2 is fairly like awareness as well, right? Because like, again, level 2 is not sustainable. Eventually, if you don't get tired, or if you don't allow yourself to get tired, like if you don't purposefully take a break, then your body will do it for you. right? Like you
Exactly.
will get
Yep.
sick. Something is going to happen, right? Like because at some point people are like, why is like something happened to me? Because the universe might have been like telling you and telling you and telling you stop. Like you
Mm-hmm.
gotta take a break, you gotta stop, you gotta look around, and you don't. So
Mm-hmm.
if that's the case, then it's gonna do it for you. It's gonna
Right.
help you to actually take that break. And that's like the people that you mentioned that get to some sort of self-realizations through those traumatic experiences are a lot of times as they reflect back, they understand that that traumatic experience actually was something they needed to get to where they were because they wouldn't be able to see the other side otherwise, right?
Right.
So it's kind of universe kick to help us, which does not seem like it at the moment. So and from level 2, again, if we don't stop, it drops us to level 1 automatically, right? And we are like, I've done it all, nothing works, life sucks. That's it, right? That's your level 1. Done it all, level 2, life sucks, level 1. So, or you can actually say, okay, like, I'm tired. I'm going to put a stop at it. Maybe I'm not happy, but I got it all. I got everything I worked so hard for. Probably going to get a decent pension, like whatever, right? Like Social Security benefits. Like I'll be fine. So, like, and that is your level 3. So it's just like that choice at level 2. At some point, you're going to make a choice. You're going to make a choice to go bitter on life, or you're going to make a choice to say, you know what? I'm just going to I have all the normal, beautiful things in life, like American dream, right? I have a house, kids, grandkids, whatever, right? Like that's the life. Nobody lives it better. That's it. So that's your level 3. So it's like really that's a choice at some point. It becomes your choice. Level 3, nothing besides honesty. Like unless you truly, truly, brutally honest with yourself, can't get out of there. Level 4, I think that one is an interesting one. I think it's really awareness. It really is, because at some point you get back into level 1. So, or level 2, because you start fighting, you start saying, hey, I've done it all. Like I'm supporting everyone and nobody is doing it to me, right? So there's a victim mentality. And there's this now switch that could happen to say, now I got to just do it for myself. So, which is like fighting. So, and then getting out of it is really through awareness and through recognizing what do I need to fill in my fridge. And that one is like a tough one because it goes a lot against social concepts like selfishness, right? Doing things for me is selfish. Like I can't take time from my kids to do something for me. That is selfish, right? I can't not do something for my like whatever, right? Like so all those things that are selfish, that's like the biggest bogus ever. Because what selfish is for me to be with my son when my mind is completely in a different place, when I'm full of resentment, that is selfish.
Exactly.
Because I didn't take time for me when I needed it.
Mm-hmm.
And not
I'm
giving
so
him the
glad that you
entire.
said that, because I say that all the time, and it's so easy to hear it and say that it's selfish. But you're right. If you can't give the best version of yourself to another person, are you really helping that person? So sorry to interrupt, but yeah,
No, yeah,
agree 100%.
that's exactly where it is. So it's awareness. It's really kind of, but I think that at that point, level 4, 5, 6, right? Those are levels, especially 4, 5, where you already have enough awareness that it's just really growth from there. If you invest in growth and don't let yourself, if you get down to level 1, if you don't let yourself get stuck in level 1, then from there it's easier to transcend into upper levels. So easier, I'll use that word loosely, if that makes sense, right? So because you are already on a higher levels of energy, you already see the light, you already see the opportunities, you probably have started some self-work, right? So there is like, that's a level when you're already open to receiving things. So unless you allow yourself to get stuck on the bottom, you, through awareness, through growth, you can always find your way up. If that's something that you wanted, if that's something you choose to do through, again, the work, right? And then, as I said, then going back to level 7, right? That is where your red carpet all the way up and down. So that is when you see all the levels. I actually love your hourglass analogy because that's just beautiful. So that is when you kind of penetrate through the whole thing, right? And you can say, like, again, no judgment, because none of these levels is bad, right? So level 7 allows you zero judgment, truly opportunity, because you are creator at that point,
Right.
of everything. Because if you're creator of your own life and you are everything, then you're creator of everything. It might be
Yep.
like, but
So, okay, so you mentioned earlier you mentioned Elon Musk, and this is like a real world example of this, I think, because like you have to, I mean, people have different opinions about Elon Musk, but that's kind of like neither here nor there for this conversation. Just think about like what he's done, like, you know, his companies, whatever. The only reason he was able to do that is because he saw a problem that needed to be fixed originally. Like he was somewhere at some point about something. He was in level 1, whether it was an electric car or, you know, being humanity being limited to planet Earth or whatever it is that he's doing, free internet for people, whatever it is. He was in a level 1 about one of those things. And I think the only way he was able to get to where he was at is to be familiar with that. You see what I'm saying? So in other words, if he saw no problem in the world and if he saw nothing that needed to be changed in the world, I mean, he probably, you know, would have had, I don't want to say no motivation, but there would have been like no reason to do the things, because that's his whole philosophy apparently, is that he's trying to, you know, the future of humanity type thing. So experiencing that level 1 made it possible for him to be at 6 or wherever he's 5 or 6, wherever he's at, you know. And I mean, also too, man, we got like, we can't really lie to ourselves here. Being a billionaire comes with its own problems, you know. I mean, people like that, man, in that kind of space, if they make a mistake, if he does the wrong things, he could like lose everything that he's, you know. I mean, he goes on Joe Rogan and smokes pot, and and I think his company suffered because of that. Like he lost shares, anyways, whatever. That was a big thing. But yeah, so I mean, the point I'm getting at is like it is absolutely necessary for that level 1 to for you to know about that, for you to experience that. And it's like this is why I was asking you earlier about when you were talking about your experience, your personal growth. It is a very common thing for people to say to me, or for me to hear from other people or other people talk. Some sort of pain or trauma pushed them in a direction that they're in to whatever level of success they feel like they're at. I mean, it has to start with that. But the problem is, I think that a lot of us, you know, we get there and we stay stuck because it just feels like, well, what would be the reason? Because we feel like there's no way out, or, you know,
but we don't know there's a way out.
Well, I think the victim mindset has a lot to do with that. You know, if you don't feel like if you feel like first of all, if you feel like everything else is everybody's fault, man, you're never going to have a solution, because you're going to feel like it comes from other people.
So can I just answer a couple of things that because stood out to me? And unfortunately, I don't have a pen and paper here, so I'm like thinking about it.
Okay.
So I don't forget.
No, that's
next
all right.
time I help. So not one. You said that he must have been in level 1 at some point. So which I do not know, like his whole life. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. But one thing I'll tell you is that if he was in level 1, he wouldn't have had the ambition to change the world. Because at level 1, we don't think about it like that. Because level 1, we see as that we are powerless. So he might have had, if he was in higher level, he had an access to level 1, but he could not, like, in order to be a creator, you cannot be in level 1. Again, access level 1, different than being in level 1, right? So, and I just want to make sure, because like that is where level 1 is when you are, like, the definition of level 1, you're powerless. You can't move on, you can't move up, like you're done.
Right.
As you are in it, of course. You can move on and you can move up, because we know that you have powers to do that. But as you are in that mindset, as you're in that energy, you can. So again, having access to it versus, you know, and then if you think about the people, again, who had those traumatic experiences, what they do, they make a choice that at some point they're not a victim. So at that point, as they make this choice, they're out of level 1.
Yep. I'm
Because
so glad you said that, because I was going to ask that question to you, because there's a very, I don't know what you would call this, a story analogy or whatever. There's two boys that grow up with an alcoholic father.
Mhm.
One grows up to be an alcoholic. One grows up and never drinks alcohol. And they ask both the same question, what happened? And they both answer the same way, I watched my dad. Okay.
Yep.
So I was going to ask you that and ask you, so like, like in that situation, what is, I guess it is the personal choice. It's the personal choice of the individual.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
it is a choice. And like one of them was a level 1 and one of them was not a level 1, because they believed that they are the creators of their life. You cannot be a creator and level 1.
Right.
So now,
because
sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, because if you're stuck in level 1, that you feel like somebody else creates your life for you.
Right now, exactly. Whether we're going from the higher levels of energy or from level 2, that's a different question. Because stating that I don't want to be my father is a low energy, because you're going not from what I believe I can be, you're going from I don't want that. So your starting point is really low energy already.
Yep.
So probably level 2, which again is very empowering for you to create the vision of your life that you want, or version of your life that you want. So, and now as you work through it, and potentially that person had enough awareness that they would transcend to higher levels. So, and then one more thing that I want to bring up, going back to Elon Musk, is you said the word mistake. So when we are in the higher levels of energy, we actually don't see mistakes. We see opportunities. So mistake is a kind of retrospective thinking of what has happened before. Like you never think about, okay, I'm going to make a mistake.
Right.
You do something, you learn something from that. And with that knowledge, you look back and you say, oh, that was a mistake.
Right.
So the person who made a mistake did not have the knowledge that you have right now when you're judging the mistake. It might be too much, but so I just want to catch on like that mistake, and we can agree or disagree on that concept, but mistake in reality is like, it's like that word that creates this guilt, shame around it. But in reality, it's all experience. If you take everything as an experience, you might have done a dumb thing, but that is the best you could have done at the moment. It might have been the worst that you've actually done, but whatever was happening within you at the moment, the mindset, the experience, the knowledge, the emotional state, that led to that experience. So, and now that you're a bigger, better person a day later, you can't look back and say it was a mistake, because taking that pipe or whatever, that pot, cigar, whatever that is, right? Or like bottle of alcohol, that was a choice. It wasn't a mistake. At that point, it felt like a right thing to do, or the good thing to do, or the best thing to do, whatever, right? And then now that you're sober, you look back and you're like, oh, that was a dumb thing to do. That was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. It was a dumb thing to do. What can you learn about it? Because if we do, we say the word mistake, we take responsibility of ourselves to change it. If we take the word experience instead, we say, oh, that was a sucky experience. It was a dumb thing to do. How can I not repeat it? Because then we owning the fact that we actually made a choice to do that. So going back to Elon Musk, like if he's operating on average on high levels, then yeah, his actions have consequences.
It's a really
and then
good
he
point.
Can make choices.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Instead of a mistake, an experience. That's right. Because I mean, you hear people say things like, "Well, I don't know who said this, but there's a quote that says, I don't lose, I win or I learn." there is no failure. There's just a learning experience. It's only a failure if you experience the thing and you stay there. It's only a mistake if you experience the thing and you stay there and you don't use that, because then it's like, well, what was the purpose? If you did this dumb thing and you choose, let's just use the word choose, not to learn from it, what was the purpose of that?
Then you're insane, according to Einstein.
Yeah. So,
so
okay, let me do this, because I want to do this really quickly. I don't know. I'm going to screen share something with you really quick, because I know this isn't really your area of expertise, but I want to show you what we got here. Let me see. Can you see this?
It's coming. Yep.
Okay, so this is from healthline.com. So I don't know. I mean, if anybody's more experienced, I have zero experience in this, so I have no idea, but I'm just kind of reading this off. So, okay, so we're talking about 7 levels of energy, and there's like 7 major chakras. And I just find it fascinating that there's just such a, I won't say these are equivalent because I don't know anything about the chakras, but it's like there's a, it looks like there's similarities here. So we have, I might butcher some of these. Well, maybe not. Okay, so we have the root, the sacral, solar plexus, the heart, throat, third eye, and crown chakra. And it's just fascinating to me that there's like, if I didn't know anything about chakras and I was looking at this as you talking to me about energies, levels of energy, this looks like it would be like identical to that almost. Okay, the root, it says the root is located at the base of your spine, provides you with a base or foundation for life, helps you feel grounded and able to stand with challenges.
Yeah. So if you think, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, if we look at this, I'm not going to go through these and read these, because if people, I want to get somebody on here that knows more about this than I do. But I'm just saying, if we look at this diagram and it looks like things start at the root chakra, and then we work up in levels to the crown chakra. The crown. Okay, so per this website, it represents your spiritual connection to yourself, others, and the universe, which sounds, I mean, that's like the highest level as far as the chakras are concerned. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because if we look at, and I know you and I have talked about this before, if we look at the evolution of like human consciousness, like let's just say, I know some people may disagree with this, but let's just assume and or imagine that at one point, we were just very not civilized, a very not civilized species. We were hunting animals, and we were just, whatever. So I feel like that base chakra is like just the base foundation of like, that's just like eating, sleeping, and reproducing, basically. Like that's just like very, very low levels. But then like, I feel like over, again, let's just assume and or imagine over, millions of years or whatever it's been, we have evolved to wherever we're at now. And it's like, now we're civilized. Let me stop sharing this. Now we're civilized. Now we're somewhat civilized, and we have, more of an intelligence. And we're like, now we're getting into, we were in the industrial age. Now we're getting into this technology thing. And it's just like this continuation of like this just evolution, basically, of our consciousness. And it's like, if you look at that, and you look at the chakras and you look at what you're talking about, it's like, if you put it all on paper, it's like the same thing. It's like just this evolution, basically.
Yeah.
And it fascinates me how similar it is,
And you're correct. Like, it's all that similar. If you think about it, it's at the end of the day, like the first 3 chakras are survival, right?
Right.
We need to eat, we need to work, we need to reproduce, we need to make some level of decisions. So those are your first 3 chakras. Then as a society, we started like, and then, if we think about going back to early ages, that was what life was, right? Like, we needed to stay safe. And that's how our subconscious and actually primal brain is built. Our primal brain is built to keep us safe. So we still, in our evolved or very conscious society, right? Like, our brains still have very primal sides to them. And that means that change could be unsafe. Because if a person thousands of years ago would take different direction to their tribe than the direction, or to their cave, than direction that they normally take, they could have met with another tribe, which could have been unsafe. They could have met with another animal that could have been unsafe. So all the path were the same. So change is not something that innate to us. And then as we evolve, we make it more and more acceptable, right? So the first three are truly just like, let's survive, let's reproduce, let's eat, let's work, let's, make decisions. And then we go to heart chakra, which is, if we go to level of energy, which is love, passion, like what's in our heart, right? Like, so it's all about love. So that is the fourth chakra. And that's where we're talking about kindness acts, right? Like people who are volunteering, like parents, and just generally, like there are a lot of kind people out there, right? So this is your chakra. And then we're talking about voice, expressing. So if we talk about chakra 5, which is win-win, chakra 5, which is win-win, energy level 5, which is win-win. And again, not a pro, so I just want to make sure that I am like, just my understanding, right, of correlation. Yep. So when we talk, we share. If I share something that is valuable for you, and then you take that and you share that further, then we actually both win. Because one, I potentially enriched you. Well, one, I actually shared something that was important to me, right? Like through my voice chakra. So I didn't leave it as a block within me. I didn't suppress it within me. I shared with you. And whether I shared that as an act of kindness or whether I shared that because you hurt me, right? So many people just say, okay, I'm just not going to talk about it. Like, that's okay. What do? We suppress it because we're too afraid of conflict, because conflict is not safe.
Right.
So we learn to use our chakra and voice chakra, and we say, we speak things out. And as we speak things out, we receive back more understanding. We receive back sharing of our ideas. We receive, all of that is happening. What you are doing, you are using your voice to share something, to bring people in who use their voice to spread the awareness, to spread the knowledge, to entertain people, whatever that is, right? Like, so there's so many things that go behind of your purpose of what you're doing. So this is the exercising of chakra of voice. So then, what is it? The eye chakra and the top chakra, right? So the third eye is the sixth, right? Visionary. Same thing. So what we're doing, we are probably, maybe without knowing, already receiving, or within us have so much potential that we've opened up to, that now we're just measuring it. Basically, third eye is like scanning the universe or the world around us. And actually, I think maybe that goes back to your question about Elon Musk, because as he had an idea, he scanned the world, basically, whether that idea is applicable. And that is when we implement it, right? So we, like, third eye is not where we see things, is when we apply, but we apply it with a deep awareness of the need. And then, of course, the receiving chakra, the one that, open the source. So at level 7, when we are fully open. And then if you think about it again, you can't be a visionary if your first 3 chakras not functioning.
Exactly. Yeah.
You just can't. Right.
Well, I mean, like I said earlier, you're just like, and you don't even realize how much you're buried under your own. I don't want to say so. I think at that point you're buried by your conscious mind, because it seems like, let me see if I can make the connection here on what I'm trying to say. The conscious mind, the world around us, like all these things that are going on that we think are important, the day-to-day things. I mean, the traffic, the rude people, the job, whatever it is, all these things that we think are important. I mean, it just clouds our judgment so much. It is hard to see past, I think it's hard for us to even comprehend that we are all, with the choices that we make or do not make, we're all contributing to the collective consciousness as a whole.
100%.
I mean, can you imagine? Can you just imagine for a second if everybody, all 8 billion whatever people on the earth, were to go out and give a random compliment to one random person, a different person, if there was no motive behind it, like eliminate. We could never do this as a social experience. So we would have to eliminate who thought who was attractive and all this other kind of stuff. Just like a random person, just go out and give a random person one compliment for a day. I mean, can you imagine the effect that would have if every single person got a compliment from somebody? And I mean, it's like, I think it's even hard for me to think about this right now and comprehend like the level of like, so people say this like an idea, like there's an idea, whatever the idea is. If the idea is believed by 8 billion people, whether it's real or not, that makes it real. If people act as if a thing or an idea or a situation or whatever is real, if people act that way, whether it is or not, that makes it real. Like, I
Yep.
mean, because it's almost like this idea or whatever takes on a life form of itself, and we just perpetuate it. I'm getting off on a tangent there.
No,
I'll go
what
down
you're
a whole
saying
rabbit
makes
hole.
no, what you're saying makes total sense. And actually, those experiments do take place, right? Dr. Joe Dispenza, what he does, he actually organizes those organized walks. So on a certain day, at certain time, he releases meditation, and people around the globe, and I think that about 100,000 of people, I think it was like 250,000 people. I don't remember. I don't remember the number, but the last one was a couple of months ago, and the next one is actually coming up on the 11/11. So he is just bringing everybody to walk and meditate together around the globe. So at their own time zone, they come up to be walking and listening and elevating their energy through his meditation at the same time. So, and what he actually, because he goes about this whole energy thing through science, right? So he did research, and he could actually scientifically prove, or statistically prove, probably right way to say it, that in those areas where the walks happen at the time of the walks, they're actually less, and some time after that, there is less crime, less it's just all the negativity that is happening in those areas actually significantly reduced at that time, because of the collective energy of people and collective energy elevation of people in that area. So because if one person meditates, if one person is, that is already a change, right? Because by being a better version of you changing the lives around of people around you. And to your point, imagine if you put hundreds of people, thousands of people, millions of people together to do that at the same time. And imagine, like, he does it for an hour, 15 minutes, I think. Imagine to do it continuously. If every day somebody gave that compliment, if every day everybody did one good thing, not because they would want to get something back from it, but just because they feel like it, just because that is a social norm. Yeah. So that, again, all those things are already there, and we are, the same way we're programmed to think about what's right or wrong, we can actually also program ourselves to start, elevating our own energy, and
for sure,
just changing the world through that.
It's I don't know, man. It's crazy to think about, like, the profound. I mean, I don't know. You can't. It's almost like you can't comprehend what that would be like. But then, like I said, it would. I don't even know how you would attempt to make that happen. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we're doing it with like a couple thousand people might be doable, but like 8 billion, that's that's gonna be difficult.
Well, that's a challenge that,
I mean, I'm not saying it can't
could
be
be.
done, but listen, I'm gonna have to wrap up here shortly, but let me stop this right here just for a second, and then we'll start it because this is about 45 minutes. Let me stop it right here, and we'll start another one just real quick, and we'll wrap up. Yeah, so yeah, if you want to go ahead and do a promotion, if you have something that way, because I want to make sure we at least have time for that. I want to make sure that we get that covered. So if you don't have anything to promote, that's okay. You can send me some links and I can attach them to the video.
I do.
It's okay.
I'll
Okay.
talk about it. All
All right.
now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Got it. All right. Okay. So I think just in general, what we talked about in 7 levels of energy, this is really a backbone of the work that I do with my clients. I mean, it's really a backbone of my life, has been for some time now, but and the work that I do with my clients. So as I mentioned, I do individual one-on-one coaching, do group training, and actually what I'm very excited about is the program that I have, which I think is I'm planning to release it in a little bit different, like reframe it a little bit and release it in December, which is Ignite Your Vision program. So, and I think it's like perfect because as the year wraps up, people kind of wrapping up what has happened in this year and trying to build their vision for next year. And this program is really about how to set your vision, how to set your goals, and how to reach your goals with the level of energy that you want to show up for yourself every day. So we're really going deep into what the goals are, because the goals are never, ever the material things that we think the goals are. The goals are the emotions that we experience behind those material things. So, and I love giving example of like athletes, for example, and as they get the trophy, it's never the trophy, the physical trophy that they want. It's the visibility, it's the fame, is the cheering, is the winning, that feeling that their work paid off, right? And then they put it on a shelf, and every time they look at it, they don't look at the thing. They look at it to motivate themselves,
right,
to go further, right? So that's an emotion. It has nothing to do with the physical thing. So we go a lot deeper into what goals truly are. And, we go through energetic ways of reaching the goals, as we talked about, like raising our levels of energy, consciousness, awareness, presence, as well as physical, more of a tangible goal setting tools like Power of Now, how to break your goals into smaller bits that they are actually so tangible and so easy to accomplish that your brain gets constant feeling of success. And because you get constant feeling of success, you want to do more, and you want to, it's that happiness hormone that we can develop on the way to our goal. So to make the journey much more fun and the goal much more attainable. So that's a program that's coming up in December. I'm super thrilled about it. Again, I've run it as in a little different form, so I'm expanding on it. And you can learn on my website. Everybody can learn on my website, youdreamyoudo.com. It's YOU dream YOU do.com. So all information is there, and it's just if anybody has any questions on what I talked about, just any question, just reach out to me, and I'm happy to just chat.
All right, perfect. Okay, so one thing I do want to ask you is, like, from your experience with the 7 levels of consciousness. So first of all, is there a name for this? Is it just the 7 levels of energy, or is there like a like what would be? Is it
You're
just the
trying to
7
make
levels?
it fancy? Yeah.
Okay. So whether it's like this or something, like if it's been your the situation you alluded to earlier about your own personal growth and development, what would you say is like something that you're comfortable sharing and it's been like a very valuable lesson, or very valuable I guess lesson that maybe you've learned from doing this thing and like being involved in this? I mean, what's just something that's really like a take home thing, do you think?
From, just to make sure that I understand the question, because I have different answers to different interpretations. You mean from the self-exploration in general? What is one takeaway that people can take, or you think about like specifically levels of energy?
Well, I guess whichever way you're comfortable answering, just basically like if you had to like say one of the most valuable lessons you've ever learned from anything in life, something that you would be okay sharing, what would you think that would? Because this is just something I ask everybody towards the end, to keep with that personal growth theme. And like I said, I mean, just if you're not comfortable sharing it, please don't. But just something that like it could be related to energy.
No, I think that the most valuable lesson that I learned is the power of authenticity. I think so much of my life I lived as somebody else. I lived as somebody that, as a good girl, as what I've learned that success looked like, and I had to be successful. There was no way about it, or no question about it, and not like none of that was me. And I was, and again, like the life was not bad by no means, so I can't really say that there was anything. But and only when I tapped into that authenticity, only that when I tapped into who I am and what I actually want to do and what I want to be, I realized that feeling of one, being enough, of just being me. And because of that, the fears, the judgment that the self-imposed judgment and the fear of others judging you, it just fades away the more you work through it, because the more you kind of listen to yourself and listen to your authenticity and live as authentic self, because none of that becomes as important as your purpose, and because you know you're enough, you have trust in yourself, and you know that you know best for yourself. So there's so many layers to authenticity that can truly just truly spark up and change your world. And I think so many of us live our lives unknowingly as somebody else. And instead, if we just took a second, takes more than that, but a second maybe to start thinking about it differently, and start with just understanding that each of us came to this world with a purpose. Yep. And each of us has a special place for ourselves.
Right.
It's like a fingerprint. It's independent, individual to everyone, right? So, and if we start changing our fingerprint to fit some social norm, then we're not going to be identifiable, right? So that like the whole purpose of a fingerprint is messed up now. So the same thing with authenticity. If we understand that we have our place in this world, and we start actually taking back our power and start living our purpose, we truly become one with the world. Because by actually not living our purpose, we are doing disservice, because we are not filling the spot that is out there for us to fill.
Right.
So it's like a puzzle. We're a piece. If you change that piece of puzzle and you make, you indent it in one place, you stretch it in the other place, like you're not going to fit anywhere. That's the thing, right? You're not going to fit anywhere. You actually don't. The reason why we're miserable when we try to live somebody else's life is because we don't fit anywhere. It's not like there is another place for us to fit in.
Right.
We just don't fit. That puzzle is broken. So I think the best thing for me that happened was to truly start recognizing and taking back my own powers knowing that I have my own purpose and really growing and doing my best to live up to it.
Well, I'm glad you had that realization, because I'll tell you, there's few things that what would you say, bother me the way one thing is like seeing people who don't believe in themselves. That really bothers me. And then another thing is seeing people who can't be themselves for whatever reason, whether it's a parent or a spouse, or trying to fit into a certain category of society or whatever it is. And so I'm glad you had that realization, and hopefully through your coaching and through your career, maybe you can help other people do that, because I think that's a really important thing. It's a really important thing for us to be able to be, I like the way you say it, be our authentic selves. Because I don't know, man, you have to ask yourself, do you want to be on your deathbed and think back that, you were never able to say what you wanted to say, or be who you wanted to be, or, try that thing or whatever it was, try for that goal or that career, whatever it was. And that's something to think about, man. We gotta, I have a philosophy that I've always told people. It's that if whatever you're doing, if it doesn't hurt another person or another thing, do whatever it is that makes you happy, man. Life's way too short to try to, fit into a box that, if don't fit into a square hole if you're a round peg, if it doesn't hurt somebody else or something else, just do whatever. Life's too short,
Yeah,
So,
and on higher levels of energy, you would never do it to hurt anybody else, right? So it's just not how you're functioning anymore.
Yeah, well, I don't think anyone's true purpose is to do anything that's going to harm another person. If that's what they feel like, they haven't found their true purpose. There's no way, because I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I just don't believe that. I think they're operating out of something else, whether it's probably selfishness, lack of empathy. I don't know. That's a whole other rabbit hole that we can go down. But
we can go next time.
Yeah. But listen, I appreciate it. I appreciate your time, and appreciate your insight on this. I'm really ready to go back and listen to this, because I kind of comprehended it as we were talking about it, but then once you hear something a second time, it helps me solidify it, basically. And so now every time something happens to me throughout my day, I'm gonna say, like, all right, how am I reacting to this? Like, where is this coming from? Like, did what they say or do really bother me, or am I bothered about something else within myself? So.
And you just gave the lesson about levels of energy. That is exactly the takeaway from levels of energy. Amazing. If you can actually challenge yourself throughout the day and ask, where is it coming from? That's when you raise awareness and you improve presence.
Exactly. Well, I appreciate it. I'm going to stop the recording right here. Let me explain how the upload process works, and I'll cut it off. But I do appreciate your time.
Thank you. It was awesome to be here.